Brian. It's great to see you again.
It's nice to be back.
What would you like to talk about today?
You know, actually, it's another thing that kind of popped up this week.
Okay.
That it's kind of, well, it's an interesting dynamic. Where I'm living in Utah, and my wife's living here, and uh, she has a real difficult class. And so, and she's mostly by herself. And so when I call her every night, and usually I call her when I leave, when I leave work, it's about a 45-minute drive for me to get back into town, because of traffic, and so I call her, and most of the time really is spent listening to her complain.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, she has a real difficult class that, in a lot of ways, she has 24 kids, and 16 of them that she has on RTI, or doing interventions for behavior.
Okay.
And so she's and they stacked the class against her. They were, everybody, at the beginning of the year, all the teachers walk in and they said, "I can't believe you got all of these kids." They didn't spread them out, and so she's new to third grade this year. She feels a little bit like they did it on purpose, and I'm trying to be encouraging. I'm trying to say, you know, stay positive, because there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Yeah.
There is, you kind of gotta play the cards you're dealt, and so I'm trying to be encouraging. I'm trying to and so, but most of that time that's spent driving in from work is listening to her complain about kids, things during the day, things like that.
Okay.
The thing I really struggle with is that's exactly what my job is.
Okay.
And we're I'm part of a team that we have in different areas behavior education classes that we bring kids in with intense behaviors into these classrooms, and I'm part of a team that's setting up a model or setting up a design for a teacher to work in these classrooms environments. So I've been on it's been on an intensive track about setting up this model, setting up an outline of teachers in those type of situations need to do this, 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 and this.
Okay.
And so as I'm learning these things, I'm trying to share those with her.
Okay.
But she sees that as me being critical of what she's doing. And
So what I think I'm hearing is that you're kind of going through this new transition period of your own where you're learning a new position, and your wife is struggling with some of the things that you're learning about in your new position. You're trying to share those things with her, but it's maybe not being received all that well.
It's not being received because she feels I'm criticizing her.
Okay, so Brian, you're frustrated.
Yeah, I'm very frustrated.
Okay.
One, because that seems to be all we talk about is, and I realize that's her world. That's, I mean, she's got that she lives, eats, and breathes third grade because that's all there is right now.
Okay.
And it goes, it kind of goes back to even with her mom was a real homebody too. Did not get out a lot and stayed home, and so didn't have a lot of outside interests. Over the years, I've always tried to encourage my wife to get some outside interests and but she seems to be content to stay at home. Whereas on the other hand, I like to go out and do things. Over the years, I've sang in a cappella groups and barbershop groups. I get involved in church activities and do those. So I'm going out, and that provides a source of attention too.
Yeah.
Is because in some ways she'd like me to be a homebody as well, and stay home, and that's not where I'm at. And so it's
So because for you that you like to go out and experience and have a lot of interests, and your wife maybe doesn't have as much to do, that's creating some issues.
it creates some tension too, and now it's forced, because I basically I have to leave on Sunday night and go go spend the week away, and that it's kind of interesting because when I get home from work at night, I get something to eat, and then I'm either studying or reading for class, or studying or reading for my job. And so I sometimes think it would be interesting, because if we were together, she'd be sitting here doing her thing, and I'd be sitting here doing my thing. So we're not doing anything different that we probably would do anyway. It's just we're doing it in different locations.
Gotcha.
So, but for her, she feels that's important that we're, she feels it's important that even if we were just sitting in the same room, then that would be enough for her. So, and so that's the frustrating part, is I don't know. I'm getting tired of listening all the time to third grade frustrations.
Okay.
And when I try to say, or try to help her, or try to give her, when I try to help her, or I try to tell her about my day, then she takes it as me being critical, and so I feel like our conversation stagnates, and along with that, maybe our relationship a little bit too.
Brian, you're sad?
I don't know. I don't know if I would say sad. Well, sad's probably a little stronger than what I feel, but it is that, yeah, I feel like that our relationship is struggling, because of all of these outside issues, and she when I offer suggestions or I say things, then she'll say, well, don't counsel.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I try to be aware of that. I try to, I try not to, switch into that counselor role, or, but yet at the same time, is if you know about some things that you think could help, how do you say that? How do you frame that without without her feeling like you're being critical, or that? And so
what I'm hearing is you're having a difficult time with the new position that you're in and the knowledge you're gaining. And with your wife, you want to share that with her without it coming out as counseling.
And yet, without her feeling like I'm criticizing her.
Okay.
Is because it's from what I'm learning, and is that I'm almost thinking about, I want to continue with a master's in counseling, but I'm almost thinking about going further and diving further into applied behavior analysis, and look at getting a dual master's and getting a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst.
I see.
Because I know Utah seems to be headed that way.
Mm-hmm.
That there's probably going to be tons of positions for behavior analysts in schools, and I know Idaho kind of follows what Utah does a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it's a pretty open field up here too,
I see.
and and I really enjoyed that. So
tell me more about that.
so I'm excited about that field. I'm
Brad, you're
excited
happy.
about, yeah, I'm really happy about the work that I'm doing and the kind of work that I'm doing with the kids. And it's difficult. It's difficult not to be able to share that with somebody.
I see.
And um, so I think about, so if my wife weren't a teacher, if she were something, then I could share that, then hopefully she would interact with that.
Oh.
But because of the struggles she's having, then because of those struggles, then my sharing what's making me happy and what's getting me excited to her is critical.
Okay, so you're telling me that the things that you want to express and that bring you happiness, sometimes when you try to share those with your wife, it's like you can't really do that because it doesn't bring her the same happiness.
Yeah, it doesn't. She's not sharing in happiness,
Okay.
and that so that she's kind of taking it personal.
I see.
And she is she's always been a person that has a tendency to want to read between the lines anyway.
Mm-hmm.
She always looks for the hidden messages.
I see.
Part of that is because of her background.
Tell me about that.
She got her bachelor's in criminology.
Okay.
And worked in security and law enforcement.
I see.
And so she's had training in picking up the hidden meanings.
Mm-hmm.
So she's had training in interrogation and interviewing, and so she has a natural tendency to not accept what you say at face value.
Okay.
That to say that there is something else in what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
which is we have a lot of discussions about emails and text messaging. So she'll read a text message and get a totally different take
Mm-hmm.
on it than I will.
Okay.
And I always feel like I say, okay, I'm reading this. I don't like the meaning or the tone, so what I do is I'll pick up the phone and I'll call the person and just to feel them out, because you don't get a tone inflection, you don't get there's no two-way communication in texting. It's you send a message, they send one back, but there's no dialogue.
Okay, so it sounds like you're telling me some of the breakdown in communication between you and your wife is how messages are received and perceived, maybe.
Perceived and received, and I know it's a typical technique that I use when working with kids.
Yeah.
Is I get them to repeat back to me a message. So if I'm saying something to them, then I ask them to say it back to me, so that I understand, is the message given the same as the message received, so that we're on the same page, and that's always been a little bit of a challenge with us, is because I like to give people, I guess I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, or it is the maybe it's the optimist versus pessimist. I'm a glass half full kind of person, and I think my life is probably a little more half empty kind. And so we just so sometimes, well, we just approach things from a different viewpoint, and sometimes that creates a little bit of a tension, a little bit of struggle because that uh, I can probably be as stubborn as she is at times too.
Okay.
In my position.
Tell me about that.
Well, that I like to. I guess I like to operate out of the idea that if I stay happy, or if I have a decent outlook on things, or if I see the um, if I see the good in things, that translates into other things as well.
Okay.
And so I really believe that if you can be happy about what's going on and what's happening in your life, that translates into less stress,
Okay.
A healthier lifestyle, or less stress, better health, and just better outlook. And I don't like that. The opposite is when you're not looking for the best in things, how it just has tendency, you have this cloud over you all the time, and it drags you down.
Yeah.
And therefore you have more problems, you have more you have more problems, you have more medication, more stress, and sometimes I feel that's where she operates out of. But how can I? So I think, so if I maintain and if I try to maintain a healthy outlook or a happy outlook, um, sometimes she doesn't like that.
Okay.
And so I struggle with, so how can I convey to her that that you're really, well, you're dragging me down,
Okay.
and I want you to be, and you, but I want you to be happy as well. And so how do you say if you could be a little more happy, I think a lot of your problems would go away without taking her off, or how do you, how would you say that in a way that is not being critical, yet getting your point across?
I see. Okay.
And that's the, um, and that's the struggle that we have. Because I think everybody needs somebody in their life that you can have open, honest communications with, or with, and somebody in your life that can tell you the way it is, without you getting defensive about it, and having open dialogue, and so. And ideally, sometimes you would think that would be this person that that you took the house with, and says that really as you get older, then you're going to you're going to be more meshed, and you're going to be you're open to each other, and you can say things to each other that nobody else could say, and feel like you could get, or not get away with it, but it's not judgmental.
So Brian, today we've talked about your new position and the new skills that you're learning, and how you have tried to share those with your wife throughout the past couple of weeks, but they're not really being perceived that well from her. She's maybe not appreciating, and so it's caused some communication and relationship issues that you've started to put into question. What types of things do you guys have in common, and what types of experiences are you sharing? So I think these are really great things, and you're also wondering why maybe there's a breakdown in communication and how you guys can communicate better and get through each other. So I think these are great things to talk about and think about. And for now, I think we need to continue, or you need to spend some time thinking about those throughout the week,
Okay.
and we'll readdress them next week.
All right.
All right. Thanks,
Good.
Brian.
Thank you.